G'day, guys. This is Jackson Millar, the Wealth Mentor, and we are here for another installment of our Aureus Leaders Podcast show. And today we're going to be talking around the finances and the business behind remote work. We've all been working remote for a long time. There's been this big call for people to come back to the office. We're never going to do it. And I'd love to talk about why. And hopefully this will inspire some other business owners out there to really rethink the way that they build their business and essentially create an environment that promotes work-life balance and allows them to attract the best talent. So I've got some of my leaders here today at Aureus. We're going to do a little bit of around the grounds. So starting with you, Jim, do you want to give us a little bit of a 30-second spiel and let us know what you get up to in your free time, mate?
Jackson, thanks for having me. I am head of wealth at Aureus Financial. I've been a financial advisor for 20 plus years. I work with 6 and 7 figure business owners, helping them build personal wealth. Look, personally, I live in Sydney. I'm very close to the inner west. I grew up in the inner west of Sydney, and I love Sydney. I've got a golden retriever, and you'll find us walking around the bay generally, or swimming in the sea at the bay together.
I love it. I can visualize it now, Jimbo. That's fantastic. And we've got Nadia.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. So I'm Chief Operating Officer here at Aureus. I've been here working with you guys for the last 4 years. My role, I basically monitor the day-to-day operations of the business and just make sure everyone is aligned with the vision. I've got a background in HR, so that's a big focus on what I do, as well as client experience. Outside of work, I love hanging out with my little family. I've got a daughter, and I have a little sausage dog as well. My sausage dog hates dogs just like Jim's, so you won't find us at the bay together. And yeah, love to travel and Pilates and all those kinds of things.
Love it. And I'm excited. This is the first time that I've actually roped you into doing content, which this is a very, very exciting time for me.
Quietly.
And Rakesh.
Thanks for having me, Jackson. I'm Rakesh, the head of accounting here at Aureus. Joined the group just over 12 months ago and been loving every moment of it since. I've been an accountant for over 15 years now, and in my spare time, unlike Nadia and Jim, who have pets, I was going to say I enjoy the other side of things, like eating them, but I'm not going to say I eat dogs. I love food. Let's just put it there.
Fantastic. I love it. And lastly, I'm Jackson Milan, also known as the Wealth Mentor. I've been a financial advisor and business strategist for over 16 years now. And over that time, I've helped our clients amass over $3 billion in combined wealth. And I've published 5 international best-selling books, one with Jim, one with Rakesh. And Nadia, maybe we've got to write a book. I'm sure there's a book in there that we can come together on.
Absolutely.
And in my spare time, I do a lot of running now. I'm currently training for a 100-kilometer ultra marathon up Australia's biggest mountain, Mount Kosciuszko. I've got 7 weeks to go. So in full swing. So guys, let's talk a little bit about the age of remote work. So particularly in the context of your experience, how do you feel about remote work compared to the old days of working in the office? I'd love to hear your insights.
Well, I can start. I mean, I only started with Aureus during COVID times. So the only option was remote work, and I haven't found any downside yet. It's been very, very easy to run the business, and especially in that time, I was a new mum. So I honestly can't imagine working in an office and having to work out that commute, and then taking the kid to school, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how people did it. It works really well for me.
How about you, Jim?
Yeah, I was brought up in the office pretty much, started in advice and had to wear the suit and the tie, and I never liked it, I'll be honest. Like, I always wanted to, but it was all about perceptions, and I felt like when I was advice 20 years ago was very much white collar. But over time, things have changed and people have loosened up. And I think that realistically, the office has become, with that, like, change the times. And I think we all have to move with the times. People want to work from home. I think they're more productive. I know that when I talk to families, they've got competing priorities, and traveling an hour each way to work sucks up a lot of valuable time that can be spent doing other things. And I think that we really believe that working autonomously gives people that flexibility and freedom. So if they've got other things to do outside, during their day, they should be able to do that and make up the time. And, having systems and processes in place to actually allow people to do their job effectively is really what I think we've focused on, and having that trust of your team. And I think that this is really what we've focused on, and it's working well for us. And you've just got to, you got to believe in people, and that these things people can work without being micromanaged.
Makes sense. What's your perspective on this, Rakesh?
I'm going to go slightly against the grain. And this is purely because of not so much my own experience, but having dealt with clients that are going through these things. I'm more akin to a hybrid approach. So working remotely and potentially having some days in the office. Obviously, that depends on the type of role that a particular team member is in and the services that that business offers. Imagine a tradie rocking up to a job and being directed by someone over Zoom on how to actually do things. Might not satisfy the safety requirements and all. Anyway, we've got some clients that the nature of their business is they pretty much sell professional labor to other businesses on a contract basis. And they need people to be in the office. When they're not in the office, they're not as productive, is what they found. Again, I'll caveat this by saying that it's not the same across every business. And personally, I like to dabble. Some days I'll work remotely. Some days I'll go into the office. I much like Jim, I had an upbringing where my working years, where I was working for the man, were all sort of in the office. You got to wear a suit and tie, even though you never saw any clients. And I feel like, even if we're just talking about the dress code, that's creating a barrier between yourself and the client, or the person who is buying from you at the end of the day. So, yeah, if I summarize all of that, I think a hybrid approach is what I'd prefer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know from my own first-hand experience when I used to work in the corporate world, similar to you, Jim, I used to hate the soul-crushing idea of being on the train and going into the city and having to spend $30 a day on food because you had to the sacrifice of having to go there and come back. You didn't want to have to wake up even earlier to prepare. And then I think the next phase was when we started Aureus, we decided to set up on all the beaches. So I was like 15, 20 minutes, and it was enjoyable because we were in a nice office. And it was a decent commute, and you had flexibility. So if you wanted to work from home, then you could. But interestingly, we bought our commercial premises, which settled on the day of the first lockdown. And I literally went there like 3 times, and it was almost that reset. And particularly because I spent a year traveling around Australia in the Troopy, and then I now live up in Cairns on our animal sanctuary. I could never think about going back to an office again. But there's downsides, and I think you make some really good points, Rikesh, I guess, and yourself as well, Nadia. We need to kind of work out, well, is it a boosting activity or is it a burden? So let's do a little bit of a quick round here. If we consider the potential boosts in terms of lower costs, more efficiency, access to labor markets, but also the potential burden of lost productivity and potentially the cultural impacts of not having everybody together and working together. Let's do a little bit of a quick round. Do you think it's a boost or a burden overall? Starting with you, Nadia.
I think it's a boost. While we've cut costs in terms of rental and all those overheads and stuff like that, there is obviously the cost of technology to more cloud-based technology and surveilling some of the staff when we need to for compliance purposes. So there's that. But personally, I think I work a lot harder and more hours from home because I'm not going for coffees all the time and chatting to my workmates, and I actually really factor in the time that I spend working. So for me, it's definitely a boost. When I go into the office, sometimes if I go to visit Jim or I do kind of basically no work. I'm a little bit of a celebrity. People take me to lunch. Do I get much work done? I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's sort of been my experience.
Interesting point. Rakesh, how about you, mate? Boost or burden, do you think?
Uh, to productivity, as in working remotely.
Overall, if we wrap all of the factors, is it a boost to business or do you think it's a burden to business?
And I can't sit on the fence here. Hey, I have to choose one or the other. I think it depends on the industry that that business is in, but overall, I'd say it's a boost because you're giving your team members a bit of flexibility. They're saving on their travel time, and what I've noticed is people tend to fit in like self-care in that time. Overall, it contributes to their well-being, how they show up to work. Um, and when it's mandated and there's like strict policies that you have to come into the office, that's when you see the friction starting to come together. So yeah, I'd say a
Makes
boost
sense.
overall.
Okay. How about you, Jimbo? Boost or burden?
Yeah, I think the hybrid part of it is important because, but personally, I like the personal interaction. I think we do that quite well. We make time to get together outside of work, and we've got our event next week, which we'll all catch up and we'll spend a week together, which I think is going to be really valuable. So for me, yeah, you've got to be more deliberate in the time that you spend together in person, which I think also it makes it a bit more special. So for me, it's definitely a boost.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, let's apply the Wealth Mastery Machine framework to this concept so we can kind of unpack it a little bit further and hopefully give some of the viewers some deeper insights from our perspective. So the first part is define. Now, there's obviously a lot of variables that go into play here, and it's not an easy decision. We're obviously seeing lots of big corporates calling for people back to the office at least 3 days a week. They're trying to create more structure. And then there's some on the other side that are happy to stay completely remote. So when it comes to small businesses defining how they get the most out of their operations, whether it be all in person, all virtual, or some sort of hybrid, what would be your advice or feedback, guys?
I can jump in. So my feedback is, yeah, firstly, what roles potentially, where would you start? Because I think that obviously there are some roles that are probably able to go fully remote, and we've created those in our own business, in the wealth business and across the group. So I think that, and then there are other parts of it that, that we've got people that are in offices as well. So I've got staff that prefer to come into the office. So having that available to them as well is actually, we've got a staff member, she's got 4 kids and she couldn't think of anything worse than being home around them. So it's like, it's like an escape for her. And it's like, you don't get that all the time, obviously. So, but yeah, I think it's just interesting. And like, yeah, people work differently in different environments. So I think, yeah, you've got to really understand the person. I think we've made a pretty hard line decision on it. So that way, it needs to fit in to what we do. And so when you're hiring that with that in mind. So it
Yes.
means that you need to hire people that can work in that environment. And it's not for everyone, right? And I think that you need to be honest with yourself. Your staff need to be honest with themselves about how it works for them. And you've got to make that decision, because it sounds flexible, but I think in reality, there actually is lots of parts of it that actually aren't flexible. So it's flexible working arrangement, but you've got to be really disciplined with your
Yes.
time and you've got to manage that yourself. So, are you the kind of person that can do that? I think you can adapt to it. I think people, luckily, just through COVID, naturally had to do it. And the people that excelled at it probably really excelled at it. And the people that didn't probably really didn't. So I guess we saw both sides of that. So it is I think it's a case by case basis, but I think you've got to make a decision either way, or some, like you said, Rakesh, some type of hybrid arrangement.
Makes sense. Nadia, what are your perspectives from small business owners defining how they make the most of this?
Yeah, I mean, like I do a lot of the recruitment for us, obviously, and so the people, just further to what Jim said, the people that apply with us, a big draw card is that we are flexible and it only appeals to the people that have the discipline to work remotely or really, really want to do that. For business owners, like you said, it has to be a role that can be done. Can't have a tradie, can't have an electrician working remotely. That doesn't quite work. But I think it really opens them up to more opportunities to employ people with a great skill base that might not be local to them. You know, Rakesh has a wonderful accountant working for him from Melbourne, and you know, we would not have met her had we enforced that she had to work from the office in Brisbane. We would have had a small pool of candidates that worked for. So yeah, I think you got to work out what is it that your priority is. Do you want the best skills? Does the person need to be in town? Like what is it that's important for your business?
It's a really good point. How about you, Rakesh?
Where do I start? I'm a talker, so I'll try not to talk too much, which is hard. All right, so I think to Nadia's point, you do get a bigger talent pool by having remote workforce. You can even go beyond Australia's borders, so international talent. I mean, in our own business, we have a similar model. From a business operational cost perspective, you can keep the costs manageable, but that's not normally why I see people employing that sort of model with a remote team. And then on the other side of the coin, we have those roles where the team probably can't do them from outside of, like, from home. What I've seen clients do is they employ a model, salary rises are based on the number of days that you work from the office or from the client's office. So one client in particular, what they do is the salary uplift is based on how many days are spent working from home, where they don't get an additional, like a top up on their rate. If they work from the office, then they get that top up, and if they work from a client's office, they get a top up as well. It's factored in, slightly complex calculation, but they did that because they noticed that the team member productivity, which is essentially where they end up recouping on the wage costs or the labor costs, their productivity is something that needs to be monitored on an ongoing basis. If they're not getting productivity out of their people of at least 75%, then they're having to wear the cost of that as the business owners, and they're not able to get the profitability that they're chasing. So yeah, it like Jim said as well, it is on a case by case basis. I particularly like the hybrid as well. I can't make a distinct decision as to you have to go down this path, because
Sure.
I've seen the pros and cons of both sides.
Yeah, there's certainly pros and cons for both sides. And look, I think from my perspective, firstly, you need to define your KPIs across the business. And I think this is one of the big things that's driving a lot of these corporates calling for their people to come back to the office, is because they just haven't got key performance indicators or ways to measure these people's productivity aside from the number of hours that they spend with their bum on a seat. And the easiest way for them to solve that is to bring people back to the office and put them in the bullpen. So I think as a small business owner, it's far easier for you to define what the outcomes and key results are of your people and measure them based on that. And look, I've always had the philosophy for all of our team, I don't care what you do as long as you hit your targets. And if you can achieve your job in 1 day a week, then the remaining 4 days a week are yours. So I think that's a value-based approach. However, you need to have the numbers to be able to make that kind of decision. I think the second thing you need to define is the type of culture that you want. And I've certainly observed that it is challenging to create a really great and connected culture when you've got a dispersed team, and you need to put a lot of extra effort. Now, Nadia needs to put a lot of extra effort in order to foster that culture. And Jim, you're right. It does mean make the in-person interactions a lot more special, because it's like catching up with long-lost friends, right? And you need to make them count, and you've got to put a lot of effort into that. And I think the third part is the people strategy, right? You do definitely get a wider variety of people, but you need to get much clearer on the characteristics and traits of those people, because there's been a lot of people that have fluffed their way through remote work and haven't necessarily been productive because they're not intrinsically motivated to be. So I think we've made some good points here, guys. And it's interesting, we're still talking about this when COVID was, 3 years ago or more? And people still haven't got this right. So I think now's the time.
I think
So I think the
if I
next,
jump in,
yeah, jump in,
sorry,
Nadia, please.
further to your point though, like I think that you can really work out if that person has the characteristics that you need for your business in the interview process if you ask the right questions, because the person that's going to be unproductive or muck around in their work time if they're working remotely, that person will also find a way if they're doing it in your office. It's the same personality. So whether you're watching them or not, they will find a way to waste your time. So if you ask the right questions at interview, you'll determine that quickly.
What kind of questions would you ask, Nadia? Not to put you on the spot.
Wow, that really did put me on the spot. Um, I like to really get a feel for why they're applying for that particular position and what they know about the place that they're applying for. Are they applying for a bunch of positions and it's a job is a job to them? Um, it's important that the person has a passion for what we do and they're aligned with our values. So the best people that I find I give roles to are the people that have done a bunch of research and they love what we're communicating to our clients. And a big part of what we communicate and try and advocate for our clients is work-life balance. It's something I thought about, Jim, when you were saying about what you wear to work, getting ready in a suit. We used to aspire to that, to be that for our advisor, right? Like you wanted your advisor to look rich. And now it's not really about that anymore. You want that person to look happy. You want them to look like themselves and that they've achieved something where they have balance in their life and they can experience wonderful things and have great times with their families. That's what we aspire to now. So I think I've answered a completely different question, but I think
That's right. I love it. I think it's valuable. It's really valuable.
so that's sort of what I'll make sure that they're on the same program as us. They're interested in the same things and they want that for themselves because we like to communicate and practice what we preach with our own team, what we do with our clients.
Awesome.
I think
Appreciate that.
also for me, it's I think we're becoming like having the ability to hire globally wasn't that common. So we really did only, and like when you said it's been 3 years, that's not that long, right? Like how long have people worked in offices? It's been hundreds. I don't know, like seems like that. Seems like this is just we do things because this is the way it's been done forever. And I think that it's that generation of people that are still probably in charge of a lot of these big companies that are like, this is how we've done it. This is the proven formula. We don't want to change because I think they're scared of change in a lot of ways. But it's that mentality that have got people to lose their businesses and we know it, right? Like we know that businesses have failed because they've been unwilling to change. I think we've got a very different mindset to that, which is why I think we're going to succeed at this. And I think, we're opening up the door, like you said, to the talent pool of being, not just within Australia, but we can hire people anywhere in the world.
Yeah, perfect. So the next pillar is create. And I think the important part here is that people need to create a framework that's supportive of getting the outcomes that they want, right? We're in the people business. We deliver services to our clients, and we've chosen to do that in a flexible way that aligns with what our team want. And we need to make sure that there's a triple win. There's a win for our clients, there's a win for our team, and obviously there's a win for us as the business. So what would be your advice around how business owners create a strategy around how they continue to build their business in the future, whether it be completely virtual, in a physical location, or a hybrid approach?
I think you start off with your KPIs, like what gets you the best result from your people, and how do your people contribute to the revenue generation within your business. So I came across this concept of the hats that people wear, red hats, blue hats, black hats. Not an original idea, but technically your red hat people are responsible for admin, non-revenue generating. Blue hat people responsible for purely revenue generating activities, and then black hat, so strategic and business growth responsibilities. The response, like the roles at which each of those people sit in the hats that they wear may not be one hat, it may be a combination of each. I think that's what you'd start off with. Like, what does my ideal team look like? And how do each of those individuals work well? Because you can't really have someone who's responsible for administrative stuff picking up the post remotely. That's it's a no-brainer. I think that's where you'd start with creating that plan, and then you'd start tagging on stuff as appropriate.
Right.
I think it's about exactly what you said about outcomes and also aligning expectations. Like when you start a person in a role in your business, they need to know what success looks like from the start, and then that's a great benchmark for them to understand how they're tracking and how they're tracking towards the common goal. We have a great vivid vision that is a document that's sent out to everybody when they first start with us, so they know what our long-term goals are before they even start, and then they know their place in that whole journey as well. So the expectation is outlined right from the beginning.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, the vision. I think it's super important. I think we do that really well. And yeah, what you said before, Nadia, about that, like bringing on the right people that understand what that is, like they see what we're doing, and I actually really want to work with you because they can see that we're doing things slightly differently. So I think we've positioned ourselves as a business that's slightly different. And like if you think about like it's a competitive market in the workplace, like people to get the best talent, you have to be different and better than your competitors, and that's other business owners doing the same thing. And we've seen that even with our business clients where they've struggled to get staff. And I think that's because, if someone looks better down the road and they're offering, potentially a better working environment, because it's not always about money, they're going to jump at it because they want to work for people that they like. And, we spend a lot of time with each other. So that's an important part of this, is that you've got to create that environment so that people can excel.
Yeah, I agree. I think my thought process on this in terms of creating is you need to create a system that's conducive for success. And I think it needs to come down to understanding behavioral principles. There's a leadership principle that's called Herzberg's two-factor principle that basically means that our people have motivating factors and hygiene factors or detractors that will impact whether or not they stay or whether they go. And when we boil that down, people want to be paid fairly for the work that they do, and they want to have purpose and fulfillment in their job. And we need to try and remove the things that detract from that. And we want to try and create motivation around the things that improve the quality of their experience. And I think you're right. It's about that vision and that alignment towards the bigger goal. And it's also about making sure that the systems work, because particularly if somebody is going to be working remotely and they are on their own, that obviously does come with some isolation and being disconnected. And there's nothing more frustrating than being stuck, that you can't just turn around in your chair and ask somebody, hey, how does this work? Or how do you do this again? So I think it's so important that your systems are a well-oiled machine, and that people who are bright and aligned with the vision, have good values, and are intrinsically motivated can actually follow the process to achieve the outcomes without friction. And that's something we've constantly been working on, and we're always optimizing and improving. And I think that's a big key to our remote team success.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few times where we've gone, this problem wouldn't have happened had we all been in an office and we'd heard that person speaking to their client and then known the background of that. There's been a few instances of that, but we learn from them each time. And you might have a particular meeting that's based around making sure everybody has that knowledge at the same time, or a memo structure or something like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. So then the last part's manage. And I think manage is really important, particularly in regards to this. I think management's important overall when it comes to running a business that you've got people and you've got team, but particularly when you are working remotely. So what do you think are the keys to effective management of a high performance team in a remote structure?
I suppose that's what I do. I think it's really important to have a clear place where processes and procedures are kept. I think it's important to have a great onboarding structure so the person knows from the start what success looks like, as I said. And I think everybody's roles and everyone's role needs to be outlined. So you know the right person to go to, you know the subject matter expert that can help you, because you can't just turn around in your chair to them. They're not there. Well, you can, but they're not there. So I think that's important. Asking for consistent feedback is something that we do, and we do really well. So if people have great ideas, they're we have an avenue where they can share them, and we can implement them quickly. And just keeping that engagement with the team going. That's how I do it.
Love it.
I really like the leadership space, and I've been investing in it personally. So I've got a leadership coach, and last year I got a 360 review done on myself, which allows me to look at how I'm progressing as a leader. Because for me, if we're going to grow a business, I want to get real feedback from people. And so I think that you've got to invest in yourself, and you've got to be real about what your strengths are. There's different types of leadership. So understanding what your style is, and, how being open to criticism and improvement. Because, yeah, if you want to grow a successful business, you're going to need other people with you. And it's important to, really think about what you can be doing to improve your own leadership style, or just think about how you can really excel in that space.
Beautiful. How about you, Rakesh?
I like what Jim said about working on yourself, and then also investing in your people as well. Um, there's something that's doing the rounds on the socials. It's like, what if we train them and they leave? What if you don't train them and they stay? That's
That's true.
two sides of a coin, and you can have drastically different results. So I think we've got to invest in our people, and also have regular check-ins as part of. I think that I see that as being vital to the ongoing development of our people. Find out where there's deficiencies, and rather than take the whole, punish them for having those deficiencies, work on improving them. I think that's how you get the best out of people, is by having a collaborative approach to their career development, rather than it's our way or the highway. I think that's very old school mentality, and I think Nadia mentioned before, where the old guard was very much indoctrinated in principles. The modern workforce, though, attention spans are not what they used to be, and before it was like a badge of honor if you stayed in a role for 50 years. Now, I remember when I was going through the process of trying to find a job, they'd be like, "Oh, you did all of these casual jobs and you've been jumping around a bit." Not many employers would see that as a good thing. Whereas now, if you've done a few years at one place and you've moved around a little bit, it could be seen as a positive. I think then you're taking more of a holistic view of that person, and try and identify where their strengths and their weaknesses are, and put them into a role which works toward those, while also allowing you to develop the weak areas.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for me, I think one of the downsides of not having everybody in the office is that you don't get the opportunity to exercise your emotional intelligence and just your observation of people. And because you're only running into people in meetings, and you may not have that opportunity to kind of get a sense of how they're feeling and other things that might be happening, you really need to have a really good reflection and a feedback loop so you can sort those things. I think one of the biggest challenges is that the vast majority of people, if problems were solved earlier, could have been a whole lot happier and may not have left. And one of the best things that we've implemented in our business, and I've been doing it for over a decade, is the Friday self-assessment. And every single team member, including ourselves, completes a survey every week, which is like, okay, what did you do? What happened this week? What did you do well? What could have gone better? What were your KPIs? Did you achieve them? And then giving an opportunity to kind of give feedback, talk about challenges, kind of ask for help. And I think having a forum like that, I found it really valuable for myself, using it as a kind of a bit of a diary to vent on a Friday as to whatever's happened, get it off my chest, and also getting visibility into things that are happening. Because I think particularly as a leader, most of our employees think that we're really busy, and they don't want to burden us with what they might think are insignificant problems that then just fester and get worse. And I think it's just so important to have that feedback loop. So, guys, let's wrap this up a little bit with our kind of final takeaway and golden nugget. If you had to summarize some advice for business owners looking to scale a team, looking to scale a business, no matter how they choose to do it, whether it be fully remote, hybrid, or in a bricks and mortar location, what would your best piece of advice be? Start with you, Jim.
So for me, I rely very heavily on my team, and I trust them, which is really important. When we've got problems, we address them together, and I think that we've got both. We all work in that hybrid model, but predominantly remotely, and it's been working really well for us. It's not without challenges, but I think for me, the payoff is well worth it in that time that we give back to staff and to ourselves. So look, I'm excited to see where we can take this, and how far our reach can go with the team that we build. And if you're thinking about doing it, you can reach out to us and ask us for feedback. I mean, we're happy to share our own experiences. And I think that's the best part about what we do with helping business owners, is that we actually can help navigate some of these things so that you don't have to necessarily make the same mistakes that we've made in the past. I think that's part of the learning experience that we offer to our clients.
Love it. How about you, Nadia? What would be your advice?
My advice would just be don't limit yourself. If you find that the team that you need don't necessarily need to be sitting right next to you, then open that role up and be flexible with what you could put, say there was a mum that could do that from 9 till 3 at her home and could do an amazing job at that, and she doesn't live anywhere near you, but she could really help you scale. Like, open yourself up to the possibility that the most valuable team member isn't going to sit in the office with you 40 hours a week.
Love it. Fantastic. Rikesh?
I think a couple of things. First of all, flexibility, like giving people the flexibility enhances the overall culture of the business. And then looking at it from an objective perspective, your wages are generally one of the biggest costs of any business, really. And if you're paying peanuts, you're likely to get the wrong type of person. So paying your people appropriately, whether that be at market or above, you generally are able to retain quality people that way.
Love it. Fantastic. Yeah. So my last piece of advice would be, guys, we're all trying to build a business that's an asset that hopefully we can one day sell. And if you don't have a team, you don't have a business. You are self-employed. And doesn't matter whether you're doing it bricks and mortar or remote or somewhere in between. All of the things we've spoken about here of getting clear on your vision, having a clear strategy, building an organizational chart, putting the right people in the right seat of the bus, having roles and responsibilities, and ensuring that you can measure those people, having feedback loops, building culture, having systems and processes. All of these things are what are required for you to build a valuable business. And that is what's going to allow you to hopefully sell it for a significant amount of money one day. So you need to build these things, and it gives you the opportunity to trial time out. If I didn't have all of these things and I didn't have the support of me, I couldn't live in my dream home and do all of these amazing things, or sometimes crazy things that I do. And I've been able to build a business with your guys' help that has been a vehicle not only for me to do that, but for Nadia to do that, and Jim and Rikesh and all of our team to allow them to do their job from anywhere in the world. So that makes me really proud. And I hope more business owners can do the same. So, guys, if you've watched this episode and you've got value from it, make sure that you drop us a subscribe. If you'd like to find out more about how we can help you, feel free to jump onto wealthhealthcheck.com.au, complete the financial performance scorecard, get access to our books and all of our tools and calculators. And you can also reach us at aureusfinancial.com.au. Guys, thanks for jumping on for the Aureus Leaders Show, and look forward to catching you next time.
Thanks, Jackson. See you guys.